Ladies and gentlemen, this is Championship Wrestling.
Hey, folks, it's Myron from the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. Today I am joined by a hot talent going on the East Coast and across the country and the world right now, Sahara Seven. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Living life.
Excellent. I got a lot of aliases you go by. You know, the Last Egyptian Queen, the Queen Incarnate, the International Face Kicker. How'd you get all those nicknames?
I had all those nicknames. Oh yeah, and I also have the Savage Beauty. I got that one in Japan, but
that's a good one.
I got the Savage Beauty, like I said, in Japan because when I came over, I was significantly taller than most of the girls I was training with. So they would always be like, "Oh, so tall," and then they would also say that my face was really pretty and that they couldn't believe that I was a wrestler. Like I actually got down and dirty. They expected me to be like, more of like the prissy type, and then like they saw like how ruthless and how mean I got. Like not towards them personally, but just in the ring, and they were just like savage. They were just like savage. So then they put them together. They were like the Savage Beauty. Then I joined Level 5 over there, which is kind of like a female version of the Bullet Club over there in Japan. And they kind of like made it stick because they were always like, "Oh, Seven John, very pretty, but very evil." So
well, that's awesome. Now, tell me about Japan.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I keep interrupting.
Oh, no. It's all good. I'm just excited to hear about Japan because, we spoke for a second before we started and you were really into everything you'd done over there. And I wanted to be able to people to be able to hear that. How did you get to go to Japan?
Well, I actually am friends. Like my best friend is Renee Michelle. She's not only my best friend in wrestling, she's my best friend in life. So she actually went over to Japan before I did, and she knew that was like my big time goal. So she did a tryout for Sugusa Nagaya-san, who is the owner of Marvelous Women's Pro Wrestling in Japan, which is where I went to. And she did a tryout with them. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go to the tryout because at that time, because I was still getting, out and about in the wrestling world at the time that tryout happened about I want to say 4 years ago.
Uh-huh.
So she made the actual first initial connection. And then over the years, Renee just kept going back. And I was like, "Dude, I'm going with you the next time." So I made a purpose like the next time to introduce myself to Nagaya-san, who was so gracious to have me over there. And she trained me and treated me like family. So I really took it upon myself to reach out to her after Renee pretty much, went over there. She gave me the rundown and she was like, "It was amazing. I think you would be a good fit over there." So networking is pretty much how I can tell you how I got over there. Once I was over there, it was just like nonstop living my dream because like I was telling you earlier, when we spoke earlier, I believe it or not, I'm one of those people who in wrestling, I didn't really have WWE aspirations or Impact aspirations. My goal was always to make it to Japan. And if I can make it to Japan, I can make it anywhere, like in wrestling, like literally no doubt, because their training over there, like I said earlier, is intense. Not to say that training anywhere else is not intense, but it is so intense. Like you live, you eat, you breathe, you sleep being, in wrestling, and being a wrestler, that's a real job over there. It's a real deal. And it's the concept of this is what I want to do with my life. This is what I'm going to do with my life. And these are the steps I have to take to get to, that ultimate goal over there. It's like, it's ingrained in them from day one. And like, that is what I respect about it. So that is why it was always my goal. Those other things are, cool, but I mean, to me, I've already felt like I've accomplished the biggest thing in my career, in my life already. And I'm only young. I'm 26. So I'm still young. And I still got a lot more to go according to people.
Definitely.
But I feel like I've achieved, what I like to refer to, because I'm a huge Michael Jackson and Prince fan, as my 88 Grammys moment.
Ah.
So I feel like I've achieved that, I feel like I've achieved my 88 Grammy moment when I went to Japan. Like, and best believe I cried my tail off at Korakuen Hall. Like my last show there was the biggest show that we had at Korakuen Hall, and Korakuen Hall is so historic.
Oh, definitely.
And I cried my tail off because it was a culmination of everything I've ever wanted and everything that I told my grandmother, who is my best friend, my biggest mentor, everything like that. I told her I was gonna do when I went over there. So it was just, for me, that was my 88 Grammys moment. Like, that was it. I was like, this is the high that everybody's trying to reach right now. And I think I just hit that.
That's awesome.
So,
That's awesome. Now, I've seen a lot of local talent around the Atlanta area get to go to Japan lately, and then I've got friends with Rise that just did a tour. Aja Pereira was just over there, and she, loved it. She got to do all the hardcore training. She got to do the shows and live that lifestyle. And I think it's really popular in indie wrestling right now, is to want that dream.
yeah. Well, first of all, Aja Pereira is one of my closest friends as well. We were at Marvelous together. I was going to say, we were at Marvelous and training in Japan together. She was there when I got there. She was waiting for me to get off the plane. So a shout out to her. It's very popular in independent wrestling now to go to Japan and see if you can cut it, honestly, is how I put it. Because like you said, it is hardcore training, and if you don't cut it and you don't make it over there, some people come back with the worst experience of their lives, and it's nothing that, the Japanese workers over there have done. It's just the fact that you didn't train, and you didn't prepare yourself mentally. You didn't give it your all,
Yeah,
definitely. It's one of those things that are make or break. You go over there, it's either going to make you or break you. And as far as I know, the people that I've seen go over there, it's made them. It's made them bigger. It's made them better. And I'm speaking for myself. Faster, stronger, bigger, better. It made you just open your eyes to different things, and open your perception of wrestling into a deeper perception, other than just to scratch the surface and what we see on TV.
Cool. And I think it's probably even more important for women wrestlers to go over there because of the way women's wrestling is treated so seriously over there.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I was going to say the opportunity for women over there is so much better than it is over here. And I hate to be the person to say it. If you're not in one of the big companies as a women's wrestler, you're struggling on the indies, and it's usually the same. Some of the companies use the same women over and over again. And it's like, there's so many women, but not enough opportunities on the indies alone, is what I'm just speaking on.
Yeah.
So if I encourage as many of like my friends, female friends on the independent circuit, to like try to reach out and go to Japan. I'm always lending out, hands. Like I said, I got my position to go over there through networking, and I feel like if I can help any women's wrestler that has that drive, that thinks she can cut it over there, achieve that goal and achieve that dream, because the opportunities over there are just endless. It's so many companies. It's like within one little like area of like outside Tokyo, there's like at least like 5 dojos, of all women's shows and promotions that you can just hop on at any time. If you feel like working on a Tuesday, go work on a Tuesday. So it's just like, it's very awesome. I encourage it. I encourage it. Women going to Japan to work, like, I encourage it. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's nothing. There are people just like we are. They're willing to learn as much as we're willing to learn, their style. They're willing to learn our style. They're willing to like learn our ways. Like they're willing to like. I love my time in Japan. I'm just gonna say that right now so people don't get you like annoyed with me saying this. I'm not saying Japan is the best country in the world. I'm just saying I loved my time over in Japan. I had a blast. But they're just like us. They're willing to expand their knowledge, and they're willing to teach. So if you're willing to go over there and learn, then they're willing to take you and take the time and adapt you into their world. So I suggest for every female worker, Honestly, every female worker should take that chance, take that risk.
Oh, definitely. And I keep seeing more and more all women shows pop up around here, in on the indie circuit. The WWE had their first all women's pay per view. We're getting there. We're getting towards a better place for women to work in America, but they're so far, like, they realize and respect it like they would men's wrestling there, which is amazing.
Yes, it's actually it's a thing. Like it's respected as a sport and not as a spectacle. So like it's just the first thing that kind of freaked me out and how I knew they were serious about women's wrestling was when I actually wrestled my first show. I was telling Aja, I was like, it's so weird. Like they applauded for us when we came out. They gave us respect before we started wrestling, and then once we started wrestling, complete silence. Like they were so into it. It's like they respect it, and it's like it's not that they're not interested in it when they're silent. I had to learn this. It's not like when they're watching, they are watching like hawks. They are watching everything, and it's like to pop them is like it's not how we cheap pop over here. To pop them is like they are truly like enamored by your style as like a technical wrestler or like your reversal, your pinning combination, anything like that. They are just so wrapped up in that.
Yeah.
Like
I noticed that when I watched my first big New Japan show and everybody was quiet. And I'm like, what's wrong? It's not a good show. And then, like you said, I had to realize that they're that into it and they're being respectful and want to watch it. It's
right.
really awesome.
It is, and it's oh my gosh, it's the greatest thing ever because once you're done with the match, everyone claps. Everyone everyone shows respect. Even if you're a bad guy, they know you're a bad guy. They're gonna boo you like when you do some messed up stuff. But they still clap in respect of they were just given a great match. Like it's amazing. And the fans over there are amazing. Like even the fact that we don't speak the same language, even though I did learn some Japanese, so that way I could have as much of a conversation as I could. But even if that we don't speak the same language, there are still the nicest fans in the world. Come up, ask for pictures. Come up, they talk to you. Come up, tell you that your match was good. Tell you that they like certain things about you. They even go so far as they'll post pictures on Twitter. I'm still getting pictures on Twitter, get tagged in pictures from when I was over there because they're that interested in you, and they follow up on you, and when they see you out in the streets, because we would always see fans out in the streets, they'll run up to you, that's Sahara Seven, big fan, and I would just love it because I'm like they were so respectful with it. They would never be disrespectful, but they truly revere you as an athlete, just as equal to men.
Wow, that's terrific. And I really think y'all deserve that because I watch a lot of women's wrestling and I know a lot of women talent or female talent, and they are the more emotional, the more passionate wrestling you see these days. And I think that's why it's gotten so over in a time where men's wrestling is in the WWE is boring almost. But the women are out there showing actual emotion, and you see Becky Lynch now is the hottest thing in the company.
And
that's
shout out
great.
I love her.
Yes, she's done so great just by being herself and finally getting the respect she deserves as such a great wrestler and as such a great worker. But it was because she was honest and it was her real emotion, and I love that kind of stuff. It's good to see. It makes wrestling more exciting.
I feel like everyone in wrestling knows that we're playing a character, but I was always taught that your gimmick, your character is not just some made up persona. It's an extension of yourself. So whether you believe it or not, somewhere deep down inside, wherever you got this idea from for your gimmick, that's you. That's not a character you're portraying as just on a whim. That's you. especially for someone who's like Becky Lynch, who's a great technical wrestler. She's great she's great all across the board. And she finally was getting like the recognition she deserved, and she was taking it. She wasn't asking for it. She was taking it. And I feel like deep down inside, that was her. She got tired of like being the polite girl, always waiting for, someone to give her shot or someone to give her recognition. She's like, no, I know I'm this person, so I'm gonna show you better than I can tell you.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like every worker, involved in wrestling, we are our gimmicks are an extension of ourselves. It is you. It's not a character. This is you. Sahara is me. Like, not an extension of me it's not, it is an extension of me on a weekend. It's me on a daily basis. She just brings out the more, I would say, flamboyant aspects of my life. But I'm more of a like low key, chill, fly under the radar by day, as to where, she just all out living it. And that's how I am around people I truly trust. I'm all out living it. So in wrestling, I feel like that's just me. So it's an extension of yourself, whether you meant to show that part of yourself or you didn't, but it comes out in wrestling. It brings out, like you said, a lot of emotion.
Yeah, Derek, that's what I really think the strength of women's wrestling is. It is believable. It is because you can tell, you can see the fact that they're taking it seriously and they're trying harder than the men are right now. Not indie wrestling. I mean, I'm not trying to bust on men's indie wrestling, but women's indie wrestling and women's the big WWE type stuff, it tends to be more passionate. It tends to be a lot more. You as a fan, you can feel the emotion in their matches, and that's what I like about it so much. It feels like the old wrestling I watched when I was a kid. Growing up, sitting around laying on my grandmother's floor watching wrestling, where you thought these people really hated each other, and you wanted to see the bad guy get his, and you wanted to see the good guy succeed. And I love that.
That's the good old days.
Exactly. And people miss out on that kind of stuff these days. And I think when I go and watch a women's show, or I go and see it on the television for the WWE, the women's matches are the ones that I pay attention to because they're the ones that look like real traditional wrestling to me.
Yeah.
And women's talent has come so far from the bra and panties and those matches to the serious wrestling matches and the hardcore matches you see.
Yes. Say it again. Amen. Thank you. Thank you to the man upstairs that we have come very far from that. Oh gosh.
Well, I was a young man when that was going on. I was in my early 20s during the Attitude Era. And I can't say I didn't enjoy it because like I said, I was a young man and it was a beautiful women doing crazy things. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten to where I can really legitimately respect and enjoy women's wrestling because it's so good. The quality is just came up. Do you think that's through more training or more people taking it seriously, or?
I feel like that's due to the fact of more people taking it seriously. Not saying that any of the women in the past didn't take it seriously, because there were some that I saw that actually did take it seriously in that era where they really tried, and those women that were taking it seriously were the ones that stuck out in that era, and not just for the wrong reasons. They stuck out for the right reasons. Best example I can give of what I'm trying to say is Trish Stratus. She was a bikini model and a bodybuilder, and she came in as a manager. She came in as eye candy, and she took it seriously, and she trained, and then she became one of the most standout females of that era.
Yes.
And that's what I mean by I think it's just now everybody's taking it serious. The women that are coming up now are taking it serious. It's not a oh, I'll do this just because. No, it's a I want to do this. I'm gonna do this. This is my dream. This is my passion. Like, I'm serious about this. So and it also is a credit to people's training. I won't say that, but it is a credit to people's training. But I think it's more so a credit to the women actually putting in the work and the women actually having a passion for this.
That makes perfect sense. But not only have you worked Japan, you've worked all over America and even into Canada.
Yes. We mentioned Aja Pereira earlier. I went to my first Canadian tour with Aja Pereira. We traveled all through Canada, and that was very early in my career too, as well. I think Aja was like 2 years into her career, I believe. Yeah, she was 2 years into her career, and I was only like a year. And we traveled all over Canada. It was freezing cold. I will never forget that cold. Like, that was a different kind of cold. Oh, that was a different kind of cold. It was just too much. And then I travel all over the United States. My goal for right now is I'm trying to get into California, because that right there is an area that I would love to break into, because they do a lot of cool stuff in Cali. They do a lot of cool stuff everywhere, but I've been catching up on a lot of Cali wrestling, because I have a lot of female worker friends that live in Cali that work quite frequently out there. Another place that I really like is like the Midwest area. Oh my goodness, I love working in the Midwest area. So much fun. And I like working down south. Texas is by far one of my favorites. Texas, I love you, Texas.
I've never heard a lot about the Texas wrestling scene. How is it?
Texas is fun. I work for Row and Booker T's promotion down there for their ladies' night out. I love it. He gives us great advice. He allows us to come in like a couple of days before, even a week before, if we feel like it, to come down there and like train and like get one-on-one, feedback with him, work out with his roster. He has 2 rings in the back, and then 1 ring that he uses for actual, shows. And the quality of stuff down there is really good. And then like the Dallas area, the Houston area, San Antonio, that wrestling down there is it's exciting. I just don't know how to like describe it other than exciting. Like, it just depends on where you go. Dallas is more old school, like, world class, if you remember that.
Yeah.
World class really big down there. So it's like more old school. And Houston is more like young, hip, fresh, like new, like it's exciting. And then like San Antonio is like the mixture between the two. It's just so much fun, because it's so, like they said, everything's bigger in Texas. So big, so you can like literally, there's shows every day, like from like, I can honestly say from Thursday to Sunday. There's so many shows down in Texas, and there's also women's shows down there, intergender shows down there. That it's just it's amazing. I love Texas as a wrestling state, because there's so many opportunities down there, so many shows, so many different people, so many different styles clashing. It's just good. It's
cool. Now, you said the I word, intergender.
yes.
That's something that is, nobody really feels in the middle about that. People either love it or they hate it. Have you worked any of it?
Yes, I have. I trained with all guys, so my first couple of matches were against guys. So I don't really knock it, because to me, I'm one of those people in the middle. It doesn't really hurt or excite me. It's wrestling. That's how I see it. It's wrestling. Now, when you go above and beyond to make it super unbelievable, then that's when I have a problem. Like, I don't believe in the whole thing of, if you're going to build someone up, that you're going to have a woman come and tear them down. Like, this woman better be like the strongest woman on the planet. Like,
yeah,
not to be like, not the baddest. She better be the strongest, not like, she has to be, because it's just, I'm sorry, I like facts. Physically impossible for a woman to be stronger than a man. Like, it's just physically that we're made different. So I respect intergender wrestling that's done right. if you get what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, I
Intergender
understand exactly what you're.
wrestling, yeah, just intergender wrestling that's just done silly, like, and just with no purpose and no direct reasoning as to why there's any of this is happening, just because you want to do an intergender show and it doesn't make sense. Then that's when I have a problem with it, because not only does it make the female talent look bad, it makes the male talent look bad as well.
Yeah.
And I feel like those type of shows, intergender shows, should not be ran. But there's some good ones that are ran, like Sabotage in Texas runs. They're really good at that with their War of the Genders.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Sizzling Stan Styles. He has the Stan Styles Intergender Bonanza. His is really good. He likes to put two people of the opposite sex that have the same style together in matches.
Okay.
And he never really tries to like say, oh, this is the baddest man and this is the baddest woman and we're just gonna see who's badder, like, no, he literally clearly said these two are like the baddest in their own individual right. We're just gonna put them together and see what kind of awesome match we're gonna get. Like,
solid concept.
Right. It's a concept. It's like, it's not just, we're gonna throw these two in here and whoever dethrones whoever is now crowned the baddest person in the world. Like, that kind of stuff is just like, it's just kind of like, this is just, you're just being silly. Stop it, cut it out. But yeah, it's like there's I was gonna say there's one other show that I know that really does good job with that. AWS in California, yeah, they do a really good job with that as well. Like I said, no silly booking, just genuinely really good stuff. Because I've seen some silly intergender wrestling, and it's like, okay, here's my least favorite out of all of them. I won't say I hate it, but it's my least favorite. I've seen where they have put in an intergender match on an all-woman show, and the intergender match is to get the guy over. Not the girl, the guy. Yeah. And I'm like, what is that? I was like, what? That, okay, never mind. I was like, that just, I don't know. Like,
that's tough.
It's one of those
tough to understand, because the guys have so much of a chance to get over. And it's a special show for women, and you want to do it. Because we sponsored in on a all-women show here and helped a local promotion put it on. And they did it the night before their version of WrestleMania. It was the night before. Now, they got storyline over. Feedback. They got storyline over for the next night. But they didn't take anything away from the women. And I thought that was handling it correctly. Because if you're going to do something, you're going to have to tie something in. You have to book it right so it doesn't take away from the fact that people want to see a women's show.
Absolutely.
And that worked out well, but they didn't do it to get talent over. They used it to get their storyline over for the next night. So I thought that was great. But yeah, we had a really good we had good success with that women's show. Drew one of the highest, probably the highest crowd ever to see an all women's show in Georgia at that one. Aja worked it. She was terrific. I'm lucky enough to get to see her on a regular basis down here. She trains at a school now just right up the street from where we live. And we get out there to their school shows, and we know the guy that runs it, and it's really cool. But it's doing so much more, and they're starting to bring in better and better women talent to shows in Atlanta, and I love that. Because it's one thing to travel to Wrestlecade to see an all women show, but when you can see an all women show on a regular basis near you, it's terrific.
Absolutely. I just, like you said earlier, I love the fact that there is so many all-women shows popping up. Like, I genuinely love it as being a woman and also being, a fan of wrestling. I love it. I love it. I want more. I hope this is not a fad. I want it to continue. Like you said, they're popping up everywhere. Pretty soon, I'm pretty sure in all the big, major wrestling states, there'll be at least one woman show that runs, every month, in the near future.
Yeah. And the talent's out there. It used to be that the talent's not out there. Now, I know the women talent tend to to draw pretty good as far as their pay rates because they're so hard to get because there's not any of them. But I think in your bigger hubs, you'll start seeing a regular women's promotion running every month, like the men's promotions do. And it's good. It's good for everybody.
It's good. Amen to that. It is good.
Yeah.
It is. I genuinely. Oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was like, I genuinely hope that in 2019, somebody has like a really, really huge. As a matter of fact, I hope that someone has a big women's show as big as All In was this past year.
I think that's possible.
That I do too. I think it's possible too. I do.
And one thing about All In is it was promoted well, and that's a lot bigger key than just putting talent on a show. Because you can get a lot of good talent on a show, but if you don't promote it right, nobody knows it's there. And they did a really good job getting the word out about that show. So, and there's a lot of women's promotions doing well. Rise is one of my favorite ones to talk to. All the talent from there is so good. Kevin Harvey, the guy behind it, is serious and passionate about women's wrestling, and that's good to see.
And I wish more promoters would take that lead, like that lead, from Kevin of being really passionate about women's wrestling, because sometimes you run into a promoter who's just doing something with women's wrestling, like, or putting on 2 women's matches just for the sake of the fact that he can say, oh, I had women's wrestling on my show, and not really care about it. So.
Makes sense. Now, you said you've always been a fan. What was your inspiration? Who did you watch as a kid that got you wanting to do this?
Well, oddly enough, we were talking about this. I have had the pleasure of meeting I've met almost all of my inspirations in wrestling.
Oh, that's
yeah. So I was a huge Razor Ramon fan. Scott Hall. He's my number 1 favorite male wrestler. I had the pleasure of meeting him in 2015 at Wrestlecade, and when I met him, I was shaking uncontrollably, crying because at the time, the person I was dating at the time was working on the Night of Champions show that Wrestlecade throws, and he just so happened to come back in the locker room because I wasn't planning on seeing him until the next day at the signing, because I was signing and I was going to take time to go over to his table and meet him. But he just so happened to surprise everybody and came backstage. And so my boyfriend at the time was like, my girlfriend is such a huge fan of you. He's like, she's a worker as well. He's like, but you are one of her biggest inspirations. And so apparently everybody was going around the locker room at the time telling him about me because everybody knew I loved him. And so I just so happened to walk back in the locker room to be bringing him a water, to be bringing my boyfriend a water. And Scott Hall's standing there and he's talking to him. And I'm just like, and he was like, you must be the girlfriend that he's telling me that you're like, you love me so much. He's like, I've been waiting to meet you all night because everybody keeps telling me about you. And I was like, oh my God, I was like, it's so nice to meet you. Like, I was just like, I had tears like coming down. Like, I love Scott Hall. He's amazing. So now every time I see him, he just gives me a big hug. But and then I got to wrestle. I'm a huge Victoria fan. She is it's actually my character after her, and Jazz and Miss Jackie. They're the 3 women I like back to like my Sahara 7 character after. But I wrestled her last year on January 20th in Dallas at the Gas Monkey Live. And I originally met her 2 years prior at Wrestlecade, of course. And we were just walking by, get ready to go upstairs to get ready to go to sleep because the signing was the next day. And I saw her in the hotel lobby, and I just went up to her and I shook her hand. And I started telling her about, how I was 12 and I was watching her on TV and I wanted to be like her because she didn't look like all the rest of the girls. She actually kind of looked like me. She was a little bit bigger. She had biceps and triceps, and I was always a bigger girl. Like, I'm not going to say I'm plus size, but I'm a little bit bigger than most girls on the indies. I got some hips, I got some curves, but she was like me. She was like me. She had hips, She had curves, and, you know, she wasn't just taking everybody's crap. When she
No.
snapped, I felt it. I felt it in my soul. When she snapped and went crazy, I was like, yes, I feel that, because this is how I feel on a daily basis.
Well, she
But
was one of the first legitimate, like, you really felt she could beat somebody's ass type.
and she still can, and she still will. Like, it's crazy because we went out in Dallas, and we were just walking the street, and some guy had said something super inappropriate, and he just was yelling at drunk. Didn't know who she was. He was just yelling at her, and like said something completely inappropriate. And she just was like, "What did you say to me?" And like I just saw her like just her biceps just got so much bigger, and I was just like, "Okay, all right, Lisa's lost it." I was like, well. I was like, needless to say, I was like, won't you know, nobody will mess with her like that. And the man, he was just terrified. And she didn't even she didn't touch him or nothing. She was just standing across the street. I was like, would you like to come over here and say that to my face? And he was not trying to come across the street. And I believe her. Like, I believe her. Like, I really do. She's a sweetheart, though. Sweetheart.
Yeah,
I wrestled her.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I get excited when I'm talking about like this, and you're excited. We're having fun chit chatting. It's awesome.
Yes. I wrestled her, and it was a dream come true. Like, I cried again like a big baby at the end of it, and she was just like, stop crying. And then she totally popped me. Like, I had no idea this was gonna happen. At the end of our match, we had such a good match. At the end of our match, she grabbed the microphone as I was like getting ready to roll on out and go to the back. She was like, don't you go nowhere. And I was like, uh-oh. I was like, I must have did something. What did I do? She gets on the microphone and she tells everybody about the story of how we met at Wrestlecade, and how I met her in the lobby. I told her about how I looked up to her and I started crying, and she was like, she could feel that I was like a genuine fan. And like, she was like, fast forward 2 years, she's like, now we're wrestling each other. And she was like, I believe this girl, you know, she said I was NXT bound, and she had just wrestled me once. And like, the whole crowd like started chanting like NXT at me, and I agree with her. And I could care less what the fans were saying at that moment. It was just the fact that she enjoyed wrestling me in the moment, and she's to this day she still keeps in contact with me. She checks in on me every now and again, you know, make sure I'm good. You know, if I have any questions, I'll ask her. So it to me, that moment right there was like, okay, check that off my bucket list. I did that, and I somehow made my mentor, one of the people I looked up to, into a friend of mine. Like, who else can say they've done that?
Yeah, definitely. And that's the fun part about wrestling, even for just fans like me. I still love marking out and seeing somebody that I was, you know, I idolized as a child. And Wrestlecade, when you keep talking about Wrestlecade, so many great things for us have happened. We've only been twice, but the amount of contacts and the amount of people we've met, and the wrestlers are all so nice and approachable. It's wonderful. It's a great show.
It's to me, I kind of I call it like the biggest family reunion in wrestling, because it feels more like a family reunion than it does a convention. I know it's a convention. I know we all conduct business there. You know, we present ourselves as the most business, you know, atmosphere. But I feel like everyone's so welcoming and warming, and you really connect with people outside of networking on like a deeper level. And it's a great way for fans to connect with wrestlers, and wrestlers to connect with fans, wrestlers connect with legends, wrestlers to connect with mentors, friends, you know, other workers. I've honestly, in the 6 years that I've gone, like you said, you've only been quiet. I've been there 6 years. Even one when I wasn't even wrestling yet, I was just training, and I went. I made so many connections, like you said, work-wise, friends, mentors, everything like that. I owe a lot to Wrestlecade. Like, Wrestlecade has given me the opportunity to, you know, expand and branch out and, you know, do things that I wouldn't normally think was possible. So I owe a lot to Wrestlecade, and I'm thankful for that. It happens every year. I'm thankful to Tracy and Brian and AML. I'm thankful that even exists. So
yeah,
Wrestlecade does a lot, and if people aren't getting out and going to Wrestlecade, I feel bad for them. Like, I feel really bad for them because they're missing out on a fun, family-friendly, like, family-filled atmosphere, like, that involves wrestling.
Yeah.
The best way I can describe it.
And my son goes with us, and I can just let him go and do whatever he wants to, because it's that, like you said, it's a very family atmosphere.
Yeah, nobody there has malicious intentions. Like, no one there is there to cause problems. Everyone there is genuinely there because they want to be there. It's fun. Like you said, you can let your kid go there. No one will just be like, oh, snatch around from there. No, like, everybody is like 10, like what people will do, right? Something like the wrestling community is small but big. If you get what I'm saying, like, protect our own, whether it's a fan, a promoter, whatever. We protect our own against people we don't know. So it's a family atmosphere.
Yeah, and I cannot agree more about that. It's something I'm going to try to do every year. I've already asked off vacation for next year so I can go. And next year's not even yet. That's how much I like it. Sahara, I've had a great time talking to you today, and I really appreciate you coming on. Looking forward to seeing you work again in the future too.
Oh yes.
Have you got any dates coming up?
Yes, I have. December 15th, I have at Nova Pro. I have March the 9th. I am at. I can't remember the name of the exact town. I'm like the worst with town names. I always have to remind myself. What is it? I'm in West Virginia, Wheeling, West Virginia, and I'm also on March the 10th back at Nova Pro Wrestling. So I have a lot of dates. I can't keep them in the calendar, but I do have them posted on my social media. So if you don't mind, I'll give everybody my social media.
Go right ahead.
They can follow me. On Twitter, it is at Sahara SAHARA _007. Kind of like my tribute to 007.
Yeah.
And on Instagram, it is Sahara SAHRA, and then THE, the number 7 TH. So it spells out Sahara the 7. And on Facebook, you can find me under Sahara 7. So if you guys want to follow and keep up with me and find out where I am, because I'm the worst at remembering my dates verbatim, like off the top of my head, but I do write them down.
So, cool. And tag us and stuff, and we'll retweet it for you.
Okay. Yes. Awesome. I love networking and I love sharing. And if you guys have things that you want me to share,
thank you.
Tag me. I will share them.
I do appreciate that, and I appreciate you coming on today. It's been a blast. I'll let you know when this is going to drop, and you just have a great day now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.